Really hard with Quinn, who was here for us during installation, who worked really hard to make the exhibition look like it does over the last week. So our installation team for Hyper Woodland, I'd like to thank Trisha Roy, Rolly Martin, Caroline Tajrini, and Megan Healy. Thank you very much. And a big thank you to our executive director, who's unable to join us tonight, Matthew Hills, and our assistant director, Camila, for their support of this exhibition and all our curated programs here at the gallery. And also shout out to Bob Gravel. This is a show with a lot of visual impact. He's our visual marketing coordination director. And also to Miki Tamlin, who's a new gallery staff member who's here tonight, who's heading up our education team. So welcome, Miki, to the gallery team. All right, Hyper Woodland. To set the scene, I wanted to share something that Quinn told me the other day over text. He said, or actually it wasn't over text, it was actually on the phone. It wasn't text, it was on the phone, an actual phone call. He said, whenever I tell stories, I envision them in the future. I just want to let those words sink in because I think they are the perfect entryway or portal or threshold, if you like, to step into the show or to think about what's going on in the show. So hyper means going beyond normal bounds. And in early 26, which is the near past, I'll call it, artist Quinn Hopkins coined this term, Hyper Woodland, to describe his work. When you step into the gallery space, there's this ultra-modern world of prints, screen, and projection that creates this brightly colored, and again, this idea of digital first. That term is also coming from writing from Quinn. Environment where three-dimensional woodland figures, beings, and AR-activated stories can appear before you. Hyper Woodland is a future you can reach out and touch. This tangible future is grounded in the past, too. For Quinn, Hyper Woodland is an Anishinaabe futurist extension of the Woodland School of Art, which is a really important genre of art that comes from this territory, from artist Norval Morrison. That means for Quinn, his imagery, the colors, the narratives that are evolving on your screens and evolving in front of you on monitors are deeply rooted in the legacy of Ojibwe artist Norval Morrison, who founded the Woodland staff. Morrison's work is many of you are familiar with. It's sort of immediately recognizable by this X-ray style, orbs, colors, black outlines. And Hopkins' practice brings this woodland world into a new dimension, into a new spatial dimension, and it connects old stories to new. So the form lines that you're seeing in woodland style keep moving, and the spirit lines keep connecting. Hopkins' most recent immersive works, which includes sacred tags, that's the big projection on the back of the room when you walk in and you're like, whoa, that's sacred tags in this show. They do more than bring us into a new reality. They demonstrate how Indigenous perspectives can restory the past and shape our shared future. All right, so I can't wait to hear more about all of this from Quinn himself. But it's really been wonderful to welcome Quinn back to Thunder Bay, who is no stranger to the gallery. Some of you may recognize one of the works featured in the show. It's a projection on a standing screen of a Quin, which means a smoky bear in Anishinaabe Moan. This is a work that debuted in 2022 as part of a large-scale exhibition here in this gallery called Woodland Pop. So that's way back 4 years ago already. It feels like the ancient past. But anyway, that work was really groundbreaking in so many ways. For us, for the gallery, it was minted into an NFT. This was the first NFT collected by a gallery, a public gallery in Canada. It was this incredibly playful, fun, joyful animation that really stole the hearts of viewers in the show. And so it's really wonderful to have it back out in the gallery space as part of Hyper Woodland. So for me, Hyper Woodland, as curator being able to work with Quinn, it really does feel like a natural extension of the gallery's relationship with you, Quinn, an exciting voice in woodland art. As many of you may know, because I know they're friends, old and new of Quinn here at the gallery tonight, Quinn has a natural ease with new technology, and I've really admired and appreciated how calm and thoughtful, Quinn, you are in sharing this knowledge, your vision, and technical expertise. So for those of you who don't know Quinn Hopkins is a multimedia artist of mixed Ojibwe and settler Canadian heritage. He's currently based in Toronto. After graduating from OCAD-U in 2023, with a Bachelor of Fine Art in Drawing and Painting, Hopkins developed a practice focused on creating interactive and playful public artworks. His work, as you've experienced walking through Hyper Woodland, explores dualities, storytelling, and relationships with the technological era, spanning media such as AR, which is augmented reality, animations, interactive projection mapping, and generative art. His notable achievements, one of which is tonight, is for his debut solo show. Many more on the horizon include winning the Emerging Digital Artist Award in 2024 for a work that's in the show called Stellar Narratives. And his multi-practice can also be has also been encompassed and named by Quinn as Noted Studio, in which he works with many impressive commercial and art clients as well out of that. So you're a busy artist. All right, but for me, getting to know you, Quinn, over the last, more so over the last week, but especially since meeting you in 2022, Quinn is a self-described digital dreamer. And so I did mention what a lovely evening it was. So before you leave tonight, you can discover what moon is rising as we speak in one of Quinn's works, which is Stellar Narratives. You can activate the AR on your phone, and this wonderful star map, or we were joking, like Anishinaabe astrolabe, pops up and tells you what moon it is today, and will be on any calendar day that you choose. And so tonight is rising. This is what I've learned from Quinn's, from the AR activation. What's coming up as we speak is a waxing gibbous moon, also known tonight as Otoman Thesis, which means the strawberry moon. I know it's technically still May, so it's the flower moon on the Ojibwe 13-moon calendar, but I think because the Stellar Narratives is telling us it's a strawberry moon, we'll go with that because I think it is true tonight anyway. Certainly feels like the start of summer. So, under the strawberry moon, please welcome Quinn Hopkins.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you. That was a lovely introduction, Penelope. Thank you, Camila, for the wonderful land acknowledgement as well. I guess this is how I change slides. I was going to do a land acknowledgement of my own, but I believe Camila covered all that. I just want to say that I come from Treaty 22 territory, the Toronto Purchase, and I was born and raised in Toronto, but my relations are from the Robinson-Huron Treaty in what's known as Woodland, Sault Ste. Marie. here tonight, and so is my dad, who I'm also very proud of because he is where I get all these technical expertise from, but I get my creativity. So, this is a beautiful picture of Basham Bay on the Superior, just down the coast, and I hope many of you have been there because I think it's a beautiful place, almost as beautiful as Sunday. So let's talk a bit about augmented reality. What is it? Where did I get started in it? And like, why do I do it? Augmented reality to me is a way of opening up a portal to a new dimension, a way of sharing my perspective to the world, and a way of bringing digital materials into physical space. This started during my time at Woodland. I was taking a media course called time-based media, and one of the projects was to take an artwork and recontextualize it. And what did I want to do? How could I recontextualize any amazing artwork? And I kind of just started like thinking, I spend a lot of time on Instagram. I grew up in this sort of world where digital technology was becoming more and more ingrained in our lives. And Instagram has popped off as this social media platform that became a platform for activism. And I went back to this piece that really spoke to me, which was Rebecca Donald's speaking to their mother, which was a response to the opioid crisis in the 90s. She toured this massive megaphone across Canada and had people literally like speaking to the land. It was a very powerful piece, and I believe it's I don't know where it is anymore, but I thought it was maybe at the Banff Center, or is it? Yeah. Which I've done a couple of residencies at the Banff Center, and I really have come to love that place. But this was my first ever AR artwork. It was something that I actually never released to the public because I was really, like, I didn't know how to get in contact with Rebecca, and I was like, I don't know if this is okay, but I just made it as like a school project, and it really felt super powerful to me. It was this way of like bringing art and social media together to like amplify our voices. And I had never really experienced like that in my art practice before. So I eventually created this, which was based off of a piece of woodland art that I had found online. I believe it's a Norval Morse piece, but I haven't had it verified yet, so I'm not 100% sure if it was one of the so-called fakes. But so this piece ended up being a very pivotal piece in my practice that was shared across social media and as an Instagram filter, and I was creating it 2021, so during the pandemic, and it allowed me to create a digital community over the internet, and this Christian Chapman, West Coast artists that I'm still friends with today, and it shrunk the world down for me to something that was very accessible. And I think in times of isolation, or if you ever feel isolated, I think we're very fortunate to be living in this era where connection is sort of at our fingertips. So augmented reality became a way for me to uplift myself and connect with others. So I started creating artworks that blended these worlds that I love the outdoors. I love going out in the bush, camping, canoeing. But I lived in the city, and for me, it feels like I'm living in two worlds sometimes. So I'm drawn to artwork that represents dualities. So trauma between two worlds, another representation of a Morrison work that I think talks a bit about how I feel about woodland art. Sometimes I feel like it's this very precious material thing, but there is something more to it. There's something spiritual about it that goes beyond materiality. And I think that's why I've kept it a digital piece this entire time. It's not something that's meant for this world. It's kind of between the worlds. And that's kind of something that became a theme in my work. I don't often create physical artworks because of this, the way I feel about artworks. And then I got to collaborate. And for me, collaborating is one of the great joys of being an artist. I think working with other artists and working with other creatives is so much fun, first of all, but you get to make artwork like this that just like brings joy to others, brings joy to me. And there's something great about you become connected, you form a relationship when you're collaborating. And I hold these pieces very dear. That time when me and Blake were collaborating was so much, we had so much fun together. And we actually made a lot of these pieces without ever physically meeting. It was a lot of FaceTime calls. He was in Winnipeg, and I was feeding off of his energy when I'd send him a picture of one of these, and he would be like, "This is so crazy! I've never seen art like this before." And I'd be like, "I never made art like this before." Let's keep making more. It's awesome. And then I got to do this amazing collaboration with Misha, also known as my Doug Jones, during a Twitter contest, which is some of you may know it's X now, but it was a time of a lot of use of Twitter. I was constantly on there. I think there was this big craze with NFTs, and I really wanted to capitalize on this technology, not just for creating a living with art, but to fundamentally change the way we think about like our art as like, you know, I think I was really inspired by the documentary There Are No Fakes, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, and the idea of owning and controlling the provenance of our art so that none of it could be fraudulent ever again was like mind-blowing to me. I was like, this is the solution. Well, turns out it maybe wasn't the solution. It maybe commodified digital art a little bit too much for me. So I think there's no such things as regrets, and you know, we all learn from our experiences. And I think so many great things came from this time. And again, I formed a relationship with an artist that I don't think our paths really crossed as many times as they have now. I'm very, very grateful for them because this is really, really cool. And I think the guy who I collaborated with is very, very cool too. And honestly, I got to give another shout out to Anisha because these were very inspired by his MotoGP helmets. But I thought I could, you know, like densify them, turn them into something that was a little bit more Woodland-like, so something that was a bit more like earthy, you know. So I went for a dirt bike helmet because that's what I grew up in. I rode dirt bikes, I rode mountain bikes out in the woods and got dirty. So I thought, you know, take this cool style, mix it with activism, and then turn it into something that was right out of the bush. And then I did Woodland Pop, and this was like so cool to be a part of an exhibition of contemporary woodland artists. I grew up looking at artists from decades ago who were making these, you know, who were defining a visual language of a culture that I just wanted to connect with. I grew up in Toronto and the greater Toronto area, and my best friend's family were from northern Ontario, or from the near north. They're from Land River. And they had to left much further south than me. And they collected woodland art, and I grew up like so appreciative of that, and I connected with artists through them and learned the woodland style from a very good friend, Conrad Wash. He's a bit of an old head, and it's so funny, like, he'll just like pop up out of nowhere in Toronto and like message me and be like, hey, I'm in Toronto, like what's happening? But yeah, eternally grateful to Penelope for inviting me to partake in Woodland Pop, and this is, I believe, a beloved piece. A lot of people like this bear market piece, the dump bears. I think a lot of us have a memory of, or an experience with the dump bears. So this might be a controversial piece because the term AI, not a lot of artists love. But this was 2022, and ChatGPT was not really a thing. And I was really interested again, I had seen there are fakes. I had seen, I'd been like really interested in this kind of idea of the visual language of the, Woodland, Anishinaabe, Cree people was, I felt, kind of being replicated over and over and over again, telling different stories, but I wanted to see what the next step was. And I was really interested in technology and what technology could do, and how I could abstract and explore a new form of the Woodland style. So I began experimenting with a ethically sourced trained model of a Woodland style. So I took, and I saw this as an opportunity to collaborate with the components within the computer. I'd been reading a lot of animism, and I had read this Jackson Tuber's essay about ghosts within records and how objects can hold this different form of intelligence. And I was like, wow, the minerals within the computer come from the land. And how can I use this visual language to speak with the computer, with those minerals, and extract some of that ancient wisdom? So I spoke with a couple of my friends, and I said, hey, could I use some of your artwork to train an AI that, at the time I didn't have access to a data center. I just had access to my computer. So I brought, I found a source code, and I trained it off of like Stable Diffusion on a Google Colab or whatever, and I ended up creating this. And I think it's a beautiful abstraction. It's cellular. It feels like it goes beyond just the initial layer of what we see, and it goes deeper in a way. So I call these copper spirits because of the color and the forms of it. I feel like they still speak to the land, but they also speak to other religions. I would love to hear what you see in these pieces, because I feel like it's very personal. Everyone sees something a little different. But that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to explore where these spirits could go and relate them to the land a little bit more. I felt like they were a little bit too isolated as they were. So I started doing 3D scans, and I started playing with the light and the colors and the physicality of them, and I brought them into different environments. So I had gone on a trip to Mexico, and I found this beautiful rock that I 3D scanned, and I had taken these Stable Diffusion AI, I call it ancestral intelligence, these new forms, and I started trying to make these like anomalies, these like portals into different worlds, kind of like how I envisioned, those initial Woodland painters were talking about how shamans would, reach into the spirit world. I wanted to do the same, but in my own digital dreaming way. So I created these pieces. And then I went even a step further, and I went a little bit more narrative. When I was in Banff, I had an opportunity to, expand upon this, and I created these pieces that I call auroral images, because they feel like a little bit more isolated or like on a vision quest. And then I got the, so yeah, then I came back around to making augmented reality in the public art world. And this is very meaningful to me. I think it was a long road to this point. A lot of creating augmented reality, becoming known for that. And then I had participated in this gathering of indigenous creatives working in augmented reality, which I was like blown away that there is that now. It was really cool to be a part of that. And I was talking to a creative in the new media space named Ayla Kuchi. And she was like, wow, your artwork is amazing. It would be so cool to use like augmented reality to share teachings and knowledge and use it for as like a learning tool. So eventually my friend Alexis and the Bush kind of along. She reached out to me. She was like, hey, I'm the assistant curator at Evergreen Brickworks in Toronto, and I would love to bring you in to create the augmented reality activated mural. And I was like, that's so cool. Let me see the space. And there were these beautiful wrought iron cutouts of constellations. And I was like, this is it. I was talking to people about star knowledge, about the constellations, and learning about the Anishinaabe constellations. So we created these pieces, and these pieces ended up, I applied to the Emerging Digital Artist Award with them, and we got to tour with them across Canada in different forms. So we did them in Calgary like this, and then I did them a couple times like this in Toronto and in Regina. So that's what's here today. I really love this like kind of urban feel to them. I think we all have, seen these like chain link fences and thought like, it's like a barrier, but it's also like something, I don't know, it's also a display. I'm drawn to them as an urban icon, but as also like, I don't know, there's something to me that draws me to them. Near my studio, I always notice there's like little things hanging from them, from one of them, and I've noticed like, I think it's like a hawk or something, has been like placing like animal parts on it. It's really weird. And then I got to travel to Vienna, Austria with a group of Métis and indigenous artists to present augmented reality artwork. This is crazy, but there's like even this category for artwork now. But again, it's something that like came sprouted from the internet, from these like collaborations. I have a good friend, Casey Poison, in Stenning from Northwest Brickworks, who me and him, we went snowboarding in Vienna after this, and it was like the best time. And now we're like collaborating every once in a while, and I got to see him when I was over there. This piece was like a distillation down from stellar narratives into like, how can I improve upon and share these language teachings and everything. And I actually do want to say something about it's pretty hard to calculate the phase of the moon sometimes, especially using code. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's been a little bit of like drift with it. So there is some inaccuracies, especially with the like syncing of the Anishinaabe calendar, 13 moons. I blame the code. I'm also still learning code, so like every once in a while I'm not getting the math right, and I maybe have like one decimal place out of whack or something. But it's more about the like, I think, idea of it. And at one point it was accurate, but maybe not today. And I would like to fix it, but it's a lot of work sometimes. I want to see you guys go. I started reading, and I thought it would be cool to read a QR code. This is my second attempt, because the first one I used seed beads, and they're not like uniform. Like they're all a little bit different, and the seed beads like stretched out the QR code and it didn't scan. So I did all that work, and I had to redo it again just to get the scan QR code. And this QR code will only last like another year, so it's like not very archival, but it's beautiful. Now I'm getting into like 3D printing and new forms of not manufacturing, production, I guess, or fabrication. I want to see. I guess I'm on this journey of seeing digital art become physical, but not just physical for me. I want to create something that like anyone with a 3D printer could print. And so this was like a experiment video called Anishinaabe portal. It's a PLA print that features a little Raspberry Pi computer that plays an animation editor, which is like a fun little 3D shaman character in what I've done the Woodland style. And finally, my newest venture is into interactive media. I think there's something really interesting about how augmented reality allows me to sort of put the art into my audience's hands, and this allows the audience to step into my art. And I think that's a really powerful exploration for me. I think I really want to see, I really love seeing the engagement and see how people play in my art. So there's always a bit of listening to play and exploration within my art. And I hope that you guys all feel that playfulness when you step into sacred tags. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Movement, and I mean, obviously, we're in a room surrounded by art influenced by dance, and it's actually something that has inspired me for the last little bit. And yeah, it's actually so surreal to be like giving an artist talk in this space surrounded by like so many of my early influences. But yeah, I think I want to, with the interactive elements with dance and movement, seeing one walk down, and yeah, more like, yeah, I think that's the main one that I can think of.
When did you ever, as a kid, go to the ROM and the big dinosaur exhibit? It was augmented reality. And I mean, I was totally baffled by the whole thing, so I never really experienced this dinosaur, which is outside, you know, come to life, if you like. But I do remember students in my class at college telling me how amazing it was. I was too scared to even try it. I missed it. So, but that was a long time ago, so you're a child and I was at the ROM, and that was my first, I didn't even know what augmented reality was.
I'm not 100% sure I've ever experienced an augmented reality or like experience at the ROM.
Other than your
Other
own.
than your own.
Other than I was once invited to
Twice.
augmented twice. Augmented reality experience at the ROM. But I wish I saw it. Amazing. I have seen a few exhibits in augmented reality, and they actually helped me a lot into how to engage the viewer a little bit more, how to tell stories a little bit better. Initially, I just thought, oh, this is a cool way to show a static, 3D model. But then I became, a little bit more invested in how to tell a story through it, and how to engage.
It is very magical the way you can get inside the story. I love it. It's contemporary, but it's also just, it's storytelling at its strongest in ways, without words.
We've had a few amazing talks with other creatives and indigenous people, and I've heard people relate like the same way that like when a storyteller is telling the story, you need to engage and listen to it. Otherwise, it's just going out into the world, not being heard. I think augmented reality is very similar, where it's like you need to be present to activate it. And, it's similar to that in the like oral storytelling tradition, where you have to be there. You can't really be anywhere else to be a part of the story, I guess, to hear. Yeah.
Can you tell the story about the McDonald Institute piece?
No, not that. That's my dad. What's up, Misha?
I know you drive around a lot and do a lot of camping. Do you have any either camping recommendations or particularly inspirational nature spots that you've had?
I mean, I love the Georgian Bay. Going out into the islands there. I love. I don't know. I think that you can. I think it's about how much effort you put into it, and that's how much inspiration and I guess whatever you'll get out of it. I think if like for me, I remember going up like the Coulonge River in like Quebec, and then paddling down into the Ottawa River. I had to paddle 4 days upriver, do a 6-kilometer portage just to paddle a few small rapids down. But it was one of the most like transformational experiences. And then, the most meaningful place to me is like Agua Quin. That's like the traditional territory of ever since I was a little boy, and it's a very meaningful spot to me. So I still love camping there, even though you can hear the highway from the camp spot.
It's good apple fritters too.
Great apple fritters. And if you're ever driving through the zoo and it's winter and the apple fritter spot in Pancake Bay is closed, you go to the Garden River. You got the apple fritters too.
Thanks.
You spoke a little bit about this earlier, but I was wondering if you could speak to the significance that interactivity has on your work. Earlier when the staff did a run through, you had mentioned video games and that kind of thing, and I feel as though a lot of your work brings in a sense of play or playfulness with that interactivity. I was wondering if you could speak to the significance you feel around that and its relationship to the audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my dad got me an Xbox in like 2003 or 4, like pretty early on, and I went straight into like playing like Halo. So I mean, like the world building and like that is something that draws me in. World building, storytelling, and I think the immersiveness of it is something that I strive to get into. But you know, I've gone full immersion before, and I've played with VR, and that I actually had to take a step back from because I felt isolated within the VR world. So I think I'm drawn to like shared experiences. I like video games still to this day that you can play on the couch with your friend. I'd rather do that than play anything online. So it's about sharing an experience, feeling immersed, and feeling like you're a part of that story.
So early in your talk, you spoke about AI and the sort of that AI from the perspective of many artists, I guess. Obviously, you've utilized it, clearly trained a lot. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel like about that in the line of art in the future? How will it influence whatever? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's become sort of undeniable these days that it is a road that we're going down for some reason. I think that a lot, I mean, I'm not necessarily an expert, but I think that I'm not a fan of the pursuit of cheapening the labor of artists. I'm interested in enhancing what we as humans are capable of doing. So if you can find a cheeky, interesting, creative output that involves the use of AI, I think that is something that could be interesting. But I think that the majority of uses of AI has left me. And yeah, I think that's just how I feel.
You said it very well.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. It's been an honor.